Well, good morning, guys. It's Pastor Andy. Thanks for joining me for devotions again today. We're going through the book of Romans still, and we're looking in chapter number 1. Yesterday we looked at a few verses, and today I want us to continue, and we're going to start reading together today in verse number 13. I want you to know, dear brothers and sisters, that I planned many times to visit you, but was prevented until now. Paul said, I've planned on coming a bunch of times, but can I tell you, I've gotten other things that have prevented me. He didn't mean anything negative. It was the work that he had going in Asia Minor and in Greece that God just was blessing. So Paul's plans had to change. He says, I want to work among you and see spiritual fruit. Paul wanted to come to them because he wanted to see more people come into a relationship with Jesus and to grow in their spiritual life. Paul really, truly cared. He had a godly, pastoral heart to these people. He loved them and wanted more than anything to see them grow in God. He goes on, just as I have seen among the Gentiles, for I have a great sense of obligation. Some translations put it as I'm a debtor or I owe a debt. And the idea of this debt here is that he owes, it would be like this. If I got money from somebody else to give to somebody else. So let's say I get money, or my sister is going to borrow money from my dad. And I go over to my dad's house and pick the money up. So I have gone and gotten what's going to my sister. But in a sense, I owe my dad now that I've got the money. And I owe my sister because I'm supposed to give it to her. Paul's saying I'm a willing debtor. It's not something that's been placed upon me, but something I've chosen because of my calling. So I owe the one who gave it to me, and I owe those that I'm supposed to give it to. And what does he owe? The gospel. That's the one that God gave to him. The gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ. He says, I have a great sense of obligation. I have this great debt to people, both in the civilized world and in the rest of the world. Or some translations might say barbarians, the Greeks and the barbarians, or something like that. And the barbarians isn't talking about a group of people that are barbarous or horrible people or out in the fringes and the edges of civilization. No, they were considered anyone who was not a Jew. So he is, in a sense, he's saying, I owe the Jews and I owe the non-Jews. He says, to the educated and uneducated alike. So the Greeks saw everyone outside of themselves as being uneducated fools, and the Greeks looked at themselves as the educated wise. So Paul is making a comparison. I owe it to the Greeks, or the Jews, and the non-Jews. The Greeks and the non-Greeks. He's saying, I owe it to everybody. He's trying to cover all of his bases. That'd be like us saying here in America, I owe it to everybody from California to New England to Maine, and from North Dakota down to Texas. He's combining it to everyone, saying, I owe it to everyone, to both sides of all of these things. I have an obligation to the people in the civilized world and the rest of the world, to the educated and uneducated alike. Man, he's saying, I owe it to these people. Why? Verse 15, so I am eager to come to you too, to preach the good news. He was excited to share the good news. What's that word good news mean? It means the gospel. Paul could not wait to share the gospel with everyone that he came in contact with. Why? Because he owed it to them. It's an amazing thought to think that every person we come in contact with, we owe the gospel to them. Who are you sharing the gospel with today? Who do you owe? Well, we owe everyone. We owe our neighbors. We owe the people that we work with. We owe the guy next to us at the gas station or in the grocery store. We owe it to everybody. Are you paying your debts? Are you sharing the good news with people? I mean, it's the best news there is. I mean, if you had discovered the cure for cancer, you'd want to share it with everyone who had cancer. Here we've got the cure for sin, that every person is born with this disease, and we owe it to them to share it with them so that they don't spend eternity separated from God in a terrible place called hell. I want to encourage you, be faithful to share the good news with everybody you can. Always be ready. Always know how to do it, know what to say in that conversation to draw them to Jesus. We're talking on Sunday mornings about no perfect people and how Jesus dealt with people who were not perfect and drew them into the kingdom. And that is in essence what we are supposed to do every single day. Who do you owe it to? I owe it to everybody. So what am I going to do about it? I need to be faithful and pay my debts and share the gospel with every person I come in contact with. I hope you'll get in God's Word and read it for yourself and see what He has for you. And until tomorrow, God bless you and have a great day.